You see my distinctive shirt? Before we get into today's message, I'm feeling kind of glamorous today, which is good because inside I feel like a gigantic trash monster. My name is Nikki Haverstock. This is the Author 2 portion of my channel, and today we're going to be talking about 4 lies that perfectionism tells you. These are not the only 4 lies. These are the 4 lies that I'm struggling with, like literally today, right now. We're going to start from what I think is the most common on down, and I want you in the comments to tell me what is the lie that perfectionism tells you. Before we get right into it, I want to make really super clear that I am not talking about trying to improve your work. When I say perfectionism, I am talking about that crippling anxiety, fear that keeps you from doing work because you believe that it has to be perfect. Okay, so I am not talking about, this is my view on almost everything in writing, is that there's a balance point. And everyone's balance point might be a little bit different. So if there's super slow writers or thinking writers, and there's super fast writers or instinct writers, everybody's somewhere along that spectrum. And maybe you have your natural point. So if there is perfectionism and not really being very diligent and sloppy with your work, you might have a natural point somewhere along that line, and you might actually need to move that point a tiny bit. I'm not going to tell you to where, but maybe you have a tendency to be a bit too sloppy, and one of the best things that you'll do to level up your writing is to try to move a little bit towards perfectionism, being a little more critical of your work and pushing yourself a little. You might be way over here on the edge of you might be like on that line, and that you're going to be better once you back off a little bit and let some stuff go. I don't know where you are. I don't know where you should be. That is something that you need to figure out. Unfortunately, sure would be great if I could just tell you, but that is my belief about all systems. And so when I talk about perfectionism in this video, I am talking about you are moved so close to this side that it is crippling your ability to work. It is working against you. You have almost a fear when you sit down to write because you are believing one of these lies. So the very first lie is that your first attempt needs to be perfect. I think every author logically knows that isn't true. That's what editing is for. That's something that even the most beginner writers knows, that you're supposed to edit your work. That's one of the first things I learned when we were learning how to do a paper, is that you write it and then you edit it. But it does seem to be something that, at least I find, creeps into your work. That you start to say, well, it's not, I need to write it the right way first. And some people, my writing coach, so I believe Rebecca Symes, she's on YouTube, you can go look her up, all that. I'm not trying to steal her gig. But some people, and I'm one of those people who needs to have a pretty good formed idea of what I'm doing before I can write it, but I still find myself thinking, it needs to be perfect. It needs to be so perfect. And so this is where you start to say, I'm not going to write this next scene. I'm going to look at my outline one more time. I'm going to reread the beginning one more time. I'm going to do a self-edit one more time. And you're not making progress and you're caught in this loop. That's what I'm talking about with perfectionism. So the first lie, like I said, is that it needs to be perfect. You know it doesn't. Cut that out of your self-conscious. Your first draft does not need to be perfect. Okay? The second lie, that second place is first loser. First of all, just so you know, I've been a competitive coach and archer for 20 years at I think a reasonably high level for someone who's talking about writing. I have a master's in sports psych. This is not true. This is incredibly hurtful. It's something that people like to act like, oh, second place is first loser. It's a terribly damaging long-term ideology. But in writing, what I specifically mean is that sense of like, if this isn't the best book I've ever written, it's trash. That is a very high standard, and you see it in a lot of people who never get out a second book, who struggle with I want to say sequence, I want to say series, sequel. The sequel of the first book, which means that you have all this pressure. If people like the first book, you want the second book to be even better. And I am not saying, we're going to be really careful here, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be trying to be a better writer. What I'm saying is that when you haven't written the book and you're looking at it and you're saying, this has to be better than the last book, and it grinds you to a halt, that's perfectionism telling you that you're that you can't do it. So that is the second lie. You can work to make it better, but realistically, at some point in your career, every book is not going to be 10 times better than the last, or even a little bit better. I mean, you can look at amazing, amazing, amazing filmmakers, or writers, of course, but filmmakers, not every single movie was a hit, and not every single one was better than the last. So like Steven Spielberg, I think some of his best works were in the 80s. I might be biased because those are what I grew up with, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad filmmaker now or that he has no good work. But if it's, like I said in the beginning, if it's grinding you to a halt, we've passed the line of what's helpful. Third one. You already know the scene's gonna suck, so you'll just think about it more, or that your insecurities about the scene will be true, or you're not sure if you can pull it off, so you'll just keep thinking. You don't know. I mean, this is something Neil Gaiman said, that the readers can't tell what scenes were difficult and which ones were easy for you. And so a lot of times we have it in our mind that it should be easy. If it's gonna be a good book, it should be easy. It should flow out of you like water. And there's plenty of, you want to go on Pinterest and look up writing quotes, there are plenty of quotes about, I think I have a bunch over here. I won't, well, first of all, Dorothy Parker, one of my favorite quotes is, I hate writing, I love having written. I relate to that so much. There's the quotes about, all you have to do is sit at a typewriter till you bleed, like, there's all these quotes about writing being difficult. So sometimes it's, a good scene is not like a burp where you know it's coming. It kind of just sometimes happens. Sometimes you go, oh, this is awful, I'm just gonna write one sentence, and the next thing you know, the words are flowing out of you and you're like, oh my gosh, keep typing. Sometimes you write it and you go, this is terrible. And then you come back a month later and you go, this is actually not that bad. This actually is kind of cool. Like, I like how it sounds. It's funnier than I thought it would be, or it's cooler than I thought it'd be, or sexier than I thought it would be. But the idea is that sometimes what's holding you back is your preconceived notion that it's gonna be bad. So don't let that hold you back, okay? And then the last one, and this is a little bit, I couldn't find a quippy little phrase for it. I actually have two opposite lies, but they're the same coin, if that makes sense. So one is that you're never gonna be better than you are right now, or that you will be better if you just wait. And they're both wrong, because you become better through writing. So you need to write those books. So the idea is that whether you're sitting at the page and you're going, this is hard to write, and if I just wait around long enough, I'll just magically be struck by the writing lightning and I'll suddenly be a better writer, so I should just wait. Or the idea of, I'm already the best writer I'm gonna be, so I need to think until I can suddenly fix this. But the truth is, my belief for me is that better me is on the other side of this book. So I will write my way through, and that this experience will be good for me, and I will be a better writer. And sometimes what I do is I take, what if somebody said, Nikki, your first 12 books are going to be okay, but your 13th book, that's it. That's your James Patterson / Charlene Harris / Janet Ivanovich / J.K. Rowling, J.R.R. Martin, that's your book. And I could promise you that. And I could put a pile of gold that said, I promise you that your 13th book. What would you do? You would write those first 12 books as soon as you could, so you could get to that 13th book. Now, I know there's whole authors whose whole theory is just based on just getting out a lot of books. I'm not going to say that that's what I'm saying, but I would say if you could take a tablespoon of that attitude and pour it into your tea or whatever, I think there's a certain amount of that attitude that is really helpful, which is the better you is on the other side of that chapter, the other side of that book, and to focus on the analogy that I used last week when I had my coaching appointment is that it's like being in the gym. If you went to the gym on one day and you did one press up, and then you expected the second press up to be easier because you had done this work, and the third press up, that's not really how it happens, right? You don't just magically get stronger during the course of your time in the gym. In fact, you maybe even get a little weaker my experience is you get weaker by the end until you're like noodles and you're falling out of the gym. You're trying to get your car and then fall down your stairs. Okay, but over the course of a month, if you keep coming back and doing that, the end of the month you is stronger than the beginning of the month of you. And that's kind of how I feel about books, and especially large volumes of books, is that the process of writing new books and coming back to the blank page is making you constantly a better writer. And that when you let perfectionism hold you back from executing your vision to the best of your abilities at that time, that you are staying away from the gym. So those are 4 lies that perfectionism is telling me, at least. This is something that I literally sat down today and said, what is holding me back from the page? What are lies that I'm telling myself? What do I not at all believe, but kind of believe? Does that make sense? So if one of them resonated with you, put it in the comments. If you go, well, that's not what perfectionism says to me, but I get what you're going at. What perfectionism says to me is, put it in the comments. Because mine might not resonate with everyone else, but yours might. Yours might be, there might be someone else who goes, oh, I don't feel those, but your comment could be the one that they go, that is me, and that helped me. So go ahead, hit like, subscribe, comment, and get back to your work, because you need it and it needs you.